The massive Kethri warship cut through space like a blade through water. Captain Do-hyun stood on the bridge, his reptilian features hard as stone. At nearly 3 meters tall, his scaled hide bore the scars of countless battles. The other species in the galaxy called his people monsters, and Do-hyun was proud of that title. "Sir, we're approaching the human colony," Lieutenant Soman reported. She was young for a Kethri warrior, barely 200 years old, but her claws were already stained with the blood of dozens of enemies. Do-hyun nodded. Another simple mission. Another weak species that needed to learn their place. The humans had been causing trouble on the frontier worlds, refusing to pay their taxes to the Galactic Council. It was time to remind them why the Kethri ruled the galaxy. "Deploy the shock troops," Do-hyun ordered. "Standard intimidation protocol." The Kethri transport ships landed on Kepler 442b with thunderous crashes. The planet was harsh by galactic standards: thin air, extreme temperatures, and rocky terrain that would kill most species within hours. For the Kethri, it felt almost like home. Do-hyun led his warriors through the human settlement. Their heavy boots crushed the primitive concrete beneath their feet. Their bio-armor gleamed in the alien sunlight, designed to strike fear into any enemy. The Kethri had conquered hundreds of worlds this way. Show up, demonstrate superior strength, accept surrender. But something was wrong. The humans weren't running. They weren't screaming. Instead, they watched from windows and doorways with cold, calculating eyes. Some even held primitive weapons, kinetic firearms that shouldn't be able to hurt Kethri armor. "Where are they?" Soman whispered, her voice tense. "Patience," Do-hyun replied. But he felt uneasy too. Every other species would have sent representatives by now, begging for mercy or trying to negotiate. The humans simply watched and waited. The first shot came from a rooftop. The bullet bounced off Do-hyun's armor, but the sound echoed through the settlement like a war cry. Suddenly, humans appeared everywhere, behind rocks, in buildings, even underground. They fired their weapons with deadly precision, aiming for joints in the Kethri armor. "Impossible," Soman snarled, raising her plasma rifle. These primitives should be cowering in fear. The battle was unlike anything Do-hyun had experienced. The humans fought with a fury that reminded him of his own people. They used the harsh terrain to their advantage, disappearing into caves and rocky outcrops that most species couldn't even reach. When Kethri warriors cornered them, they fought to the death instead of surrendering. One human, a female with dark hair and fierce eyes, threw herself at a Kethri warrior with nothing but a metal pipe. She couldn't hurt him, but she didn't seem to care. She struck again and again until other humans could drag her away. "They're insane," one of Do-hyun's soldiers reported over the comm. "They keep attacking even when they know they can't win." Do-hyun frowned. In 300 years of conquest, no species had shown this kind of reckless courage. The Kethri were feared because they never backed down from a fight, but these humans seemed to share that same trait. The fighting continued for hours. The humans couldn't defeat the Kethri in direct combat, but they made every meter cost blood. They used improvised explosives, collapsed buildings, and even turned their own infrastructure into weapons. When Kethri forces advanced down a street, humans would flood the area and force them into brutal close combat. "Sir," Soman called out, "we've captured some of them." Do-hyun approached the group of human prisoners. They were small compared to Kethri, barely reaching his chest, but they stood straight and proud. Their eyes held no fear, only defiance. One of them, an older male with gray hair, stepped forward. "I am Minho, leader of the settlement. If you want to negotiate, you deal with me." Do-hyun stared down at the human. Every other species would have prostrated themselves before a Kethri captain. This one spoke as if they were equals. "You will surrender your weapons and submit to Galactic Council authority," Do-hyun growled in the human language. "Resist, and we will destroy everything you have built." Minho smiled. It wasn't a pleasant expression. "You can try, but you should know. We've been fighting and dying on hostile worlds for thousands of years, long before we knew there were other species out here. Your world cannot be as harsh as Vorthak Prime." Soman snapped. "We are the apex predators of the galaxy." "Maybe," Minho said quietly, "but you've never been to Earth." Something in his voice made Do-hyun pause. He had studied the files on human worlds. Earth was listed as a Class 7 world, dangerous, but not exceptional. Vorthak Prime was Class X, the highest rating ever recorded. "Take them to the holding cells," Do-hyun ordered. "We'll continue this discussion later." As the prisoners were led away, Do-hyun found himself thinking about the battle. The humans had lost, but they had made it cost far more than it should have. Their weapons were primitive, their numbers small, yet they had inflicted actual casualties. On Kethri forces. That night, Do-hyun stood on the observation deck of his ship looking down at the human settlement. Fires still burned from the battle. He could see humans moving through the ruins, caring for their wounded and preparing for the next day. They moved with purpose and determination that seemed familiar. "Sir?" Soman approached, her armor still, scarred from the fighting. "The prisoners refuse to cooperate. They won't reveal the locations of other settlements or military installations." "Have you tried the standard techniques?" "Yes, sir. Pain, fear, threats to their families. Nothing works. They just endure." Do-hyun felt a chill that had nothing to do with the ship's temperature control. The ability to endure suffering without breaking was a Kethri trait. It was what made them superior to other species. How could these small, soft creatures possess the same ability? "Double the guards on the prisoners," he ordered. "And send a message to Elder Jinwoo. Tell him we may need to reassess our intelligence on human capabilities." As Soman left to carry out his orders, Do-hyun continued to stare at the planet below. For the first time in his long military career, he felt uncertain. The humans were supposed to be another weak species, easy to conquer and control. Instead, they had shown the kind of fighting spirit that the Kethri believed belonged only to them. Deep in the ship's holding cells, the human prisoners sat in silence. They had lost the battle, but their eyes still burned with unbroken will. They were planning, waiting, preparing for the next opportunity to fight. Just like Kethri would do in their position. The galaxy was about to discover that there were two species of apex predators among the stars. 3 weeks had passed since the Kethri occupation of Kepler 442b began, and Captain Do-hyun was growing more frustrated each day. The human settlement should have been completely under control by now. Instead, it felt like trying to hold water in his clawed hands. The humans refused to break. Every morning brought new acts of defiance. Humans would disappear during work details, taking tools and supplies with them. Others would sabotage equipment in ways that seemed impossible. The most disturbing incidents involved humans who would smile at their Kethri guards while planning attacks. "Sir, we've lost another patrol," someone reported, her voice tight with anger. 3 warriors ambushed in the northern sector." Do-hyun slammed his fist on the command table. "How? Our soldiers are twice their size and 10 times stronger. They have advanced weapons and armor. The humans are using the terrain against us," she explained. "They know every cave, every hidden path. They strike fast and disappear before we can respond." In the medical bay, Hunjae was conducting his own investigation. The Kethri xenobiologist had been studying captured humans for weeks, and his findings were troubling. He approached Do-hyun with a data pad full of test results. "Captain, you need to see this," Hyunji said, his usually calm voice showing strain. "The human physiology is far more complex than our initial reports suggested." "Explain." "Their muscle fibers are incredibly dense. Their bone structure is designed to withstand massive trauma. Most importantly, their brain chemistry produces chemicals that actually make them perform better under stress." Do-hyun studied the data. "This is impossible. Our intelligence said they evolved on a peaceful world." "Our intelligence was wrong," Hyunjae replied quietly. "I've been analyzing their genetic code. These creatures evolved in an environment of constant danger. Look at this. Their bodies produce natural painkillers that would render most species unconscious. Humans remain fully functional." Meanwhile, in the underground tunnels beneath the settlement, Minho was organizing the resistance. The humans, had been preparing for this kind of fight their entire lives, even if they didn't know it. The Kethri are strong, he told the gathered fighters, but they're predictable. They rely on fear and superior firepower. We need to be smarter. Yuna, a young engineer, had been busy converting mining equipment into weapons. I figured out how to overload their scanner systems, she reported. We can create blind spots in their surveillance network. Good, what about weapons? The kinetic rounds aren't penetrating their armor directly, but I've found weak points. The joints have to be flexible, which means they're vulnerable. We just need to be accurate. A teenager named Kyung raised her hand. What if we use the predators? The adults looked at her in confusion. What predators? The rock crawlers in the caves. Back home on Earth, we learned to use dangerous animals as allies. Maybe we can do the same here. Minho smiled grimly. The child was thinking like a true human, turning the environment itself into a weapon. The next Kethri patrol never made it back to base. They were found 3 days later, their armor torn apart by indigenous predators that had somehow been herded into their path. The Kethri had never seen anything like it, a species that could convince other dangerous creatures to fight alongside them. Do Hyun called an emergency meeting with his senior staff. The situation was becoming impossible to control. They're not fighting like any species we've encountered, he admitted. They seem to get stronger the more pressure we apply. Someone shifted uncomfortably. Sir, I've been thinking, what if they're not so different from us? What do you mean? The way they fight, the way they refuse to surrender even when facing certain death. It reminds me of home, of the old stories about how our ancestors survived the killing grounds, of Vorthak Prime. Hyunji nodded slowly. I've been comparing their world data with ours. Earth has experienced multiple extinction events, asteroid impacts, volcanic eruptions, ice ages. Any one of those would have wiped out most species, yet humans survived all of them. Impossible, Doyun growled. Vorthak Prime is the most hostile world in the galaxy. According to the old classification system, yes, but I think we need to reassess Earth's rating. The conversation was interrupted by alarms. Another attack was in progress, this time at the main communications array. Do-hyun and his team rushed to the scene to find humans using jury-rigged explosives to destroy critical equipment. The attackers didn't try to escape when the Kethri arrived. Instead, they fought with improvised weapons until they were overwhelmed. Even wounded and captured, they showed no fear. One of them, a woman with gray streaks in her hair, looked directly at Do-hyun. You can kill us, she said calmly. But there will always be more. We've been surviving things like you for millions of years. Things like us? Soman snarled. We are the apex predators of the galaxy. The human woman smiled. So are we. The difference is, we learned to work together. That night, Do-hyun found himself unable to sleep. He kept thinking about the humans' words. The Kethri had always believed their individual strength made them superior, but the humans seemed to multiply their strength by combining it. He accessed the ship's database and began reading every file on human history. What he found shook him to his core. The humans had not just survived their hostile world, they had thrived. They had turned every challenge into an opportunity, every predator into a partner or prey. They had domesticated wolves, pack hunters that would terrorize most galactic species. They had learned to use fire, control electricity, and split the key atom. They had turned their entire planet into a tool for their survival. Most disturbing of all, they had done it together. Where Kethri society was built on individual strength and clan hierarchies, human society was built on cooperation across genetic lines. They formed bonds with complete strangers, adopting children who weren't their offspring, dying for causes that wouldn't directly benefit them. Sir? Soman entered his quarters. The humans have sent a message. She handed him a simple text communication. We know you're reading our history. Would you like to know about Earth? Do-hyun stared at the message. The humans weren't just resisting. They were trying to communicate. They wanted to share information about their homeworld. Send a reply, he ordered. Tell them I'm listening. The response came immediately. Earth is beautiful. It's also the most dangerous place in the galaxy. We'd be happy to show you why we're not afraid of anything. For the first time since arriving at Kepler 442b, Do-Yun felt something he had never experienced in battle, genuine curiosity about his enemy. The humans weren't just another species to conquer. They were something new and unexpected, and they were offering to teach him about their world. Outside his window, the human settlement glowed with the light of repair work. Even after weeks of occupation, they continued to build, to hope, to fight. They were doing exactly what Kethri would do in their situation. The realization hit him like a plasma blast. The humans might not be the primitive species the galaxy believed them to be. They might be something far more dangerous. They might be equals. Elder Jinwoo's arrival changed everything. The ancient Kethri stepped off his transport ship like a force of nature, his scarred hide telling the story of 4 centuries of warfare. At his age, he had personally conquered 30 worlds and seen every form of resistance the galaxy could offer. Or so he thought. Captain Do-Hyun, Jinwoo's voice rumbled like distant thunder. Explain why a simple colonial suppression has lasted over a month. Do-Hyun chose his words carefully. The humans are proving more resilient than expected, Elder. Resilient? Jinwoo's yellow eyes narrowed. They are primitives with crude weapons. How can they pose any challenge to Kethri warriors? Before Do-Hyun could answer, alarms rang across the base. Another human attack was in progress. This time, they were targeting the power generators with coordinated strikes from 3 different directions. Jinwoo watched the tactical display with growing interest. They move like Kethri hunting packs, he observed. But their coordination isn't different. Yes, Elder. They seem to anticipate each other's actions without direct communication. Our analysts believe they're using some form of telepathy. Telepathy is rare among spacefaring species, Jinwoo mused. If humans possessed such abilities, it would explain their effectiveness. Hyunjae approached with his latest findings. Elder, I don't think it's telepathy. I believe it's something more complex, learned social behavior that mimics telepathic coordination. Show me. The xenobiologist led them to an observation room where human prisoners were being held. The humans sat together in small groups, sharing food and resources without any apparent negotiation. When one person seemed distressed, others immediately provided comfort and support. Watch this, Hyunjae said. He had one of the guards remove a single human from the group. The remaining prisoners immediately reorganized themselves to fill the gap, maintaining their social structure without missing a beat. Fascinating, Jinwoo admitted. They adapt their group dynamics in real time. It gets more interesting, Elder. I've been interviewing them about their homeworld. Jinwoo turned his attention to a middle-aged human male who had been captured the previous day. The man sat calmly, showing none of the fear or aggression typical of prisoners. I am Elder Jinwoo, of the Kethri Empire, he announced. You will tell me about your world. The human looked up without flinching. I'm Seojin, teacher and historian. I'd be happy to tell you about Earth. Your world is classified as Class 7, dangerous but not exceptional. Seojin smiled sadly. Your classification system might need updating. Earth has tried to kill everything, on it at least 5 times in the last few million years. We're still here. Impossible. Only Kethri could survive repeated extinction events. Would you like to hear about them? The asteroid that killed the dinosaurs was 65 million years ago. The ice ages lasted hundreds of thousands of years, each. The supervolcano eruptions darkened our skies for decades. Every time, life found a way to survive and adapt. Jinwoo found himself leaning forward. How did your species endure such catastrophes? The same way yours did, I imagine. We learned to work together, to share resources, to never give up hope. But we also learned something else. How to make friends with danger. Explain, Seojun gestured to one of the younger prisoners. Nara, here grew up on a farm. Tell them about your animals. The young woman looked nervous but spoke clearly. We had dogs, horses, and cattle, for protection and companionship. Dogs? Hyunjae consulted his datapad. Those are descended from pack, hunters called wolves? Yes, we domesticated them 30,000 years ago. They help us hunt, guard our homes, and keep us company. Jinwoo stared at the girl. Wolves were apex predators on most worlds, feared by every species except the Kethri themselves. The idea of keeping them as companions was nearly incomprehensible. What other creatures do you keep? He asked quietly. Cats for pest control, they're descended from solitary hunters. Birds for messages and companionship. Some are incredibly intelligent. Fish for food and decoration. We even keep some insects and spiders as pets. Spiders, Jinwoo repeated. On Vorthak Prime, arachnids were among the most dangerous predators. You keep venomous creatures in your homes. Not all of them are venomous, Nara said defensively, and the dangerous ones are usually kept by experts who know how to handle them safely. Seojin continued the explanation. We learned early that cooperation was stronger than domination. Instead of just killing dangerous creatures, we found ways to work with them. We turned wolves into partners, horses into transportation, cattle into food sources that replenish themselves. But surely you fear the truly dangerous predators of your world? Of course we're careful around them, but fear and respect aren't the same thing. We've learned to coexist with bears, big cats, sharks, venomous snakes, and even crocodiles. Some humans make it their life's work to study and protect these creatures. Jinwoo felt his worldview shifting. The Kethri had survived by becoming the ultimate predator, feared by everything on their world. Humans seem to have survived by becoming the ultimate collaborator, making allies of everything on theirs. Tell me about human children, he said suddenly. What would you like to know? How do you prepare them for survival? Seojin laughed. We teach them through play, games that develop physical skills, mental puzzles that strengthen problem-solving abilities, stories that pass on cultural knowledge and values. Play? Soman spoke for the first time. You don't train them for combat? Some do learn martial arts or join military organizations, but most of our children learn survival skills through what we call sports and hobbies. Swimming, climbing, running, team games that require coordination and strategy. Show me, Jinwoo demanded. The guards brought in Kyung, the teenager who had suggested using local predators. She looked around the room with bright, curious eyes, showing no fear of the massive Kethri warriors. Hello, she said politely. I'm Kyung. Child, Jinwoo said gently. Tell me about your pets. Oh, I had lots of pets back on Earth. My dog Rex, he was a German Shepherd mix. My cat Luna, she was really good at catching mice. I had some fish in a tank, and my mom let me keep a tarantula named Fuzzy. A tarantula, Jinwoo said slowly. Yeah, they're really cool. Fuzzy was about the size of my hand, and she was so gentle. She'd walk on my arm and never bit anyone. I fed her crickets once a week. Soman looked physically ill. You kept a venomous spider as a pet? Oh, Fuzzy wasn't venomous to humans. Her bite might hurt a little, but it wouldn't kill me. Some people keep really dangerous ones, but they need special permits and training. Jinwoo stared at the child. She was perhaps 15 years old, small even by human standards, yet she spoke casually about keeping creatures that would be considered biological weapons on most worlds. What games do you play? He asked. Lots of different ones. I like rock, climbing and swimming. At school we play team sports like soccer and basketball. Oh, and I'm learning kendo, that's sword fighting. Sword fighting? Yeah, but we use wooden swords for practice. It teaches discipline and focus. My sensei says it's about controlling yourself, not hurting others. The room fell silent. This child had been trained in weapons combat, environmental, survival, and keeping dangerous predators, yet she spoke about it all as normal childhood activities. Hyunjae consulted his datapad again. According to the files, human children regularly engage in activities that would be considered military training by other species. Rock climbing, swimming in dangerous waters, contact sports, weapon arts, survival camping. It's not military training, Kyung protested. It's just fun. Jinwoo looked at Captain Do-hyun. How many of our warriors can swim? Very few, Elder. Water training is considered specialized education. Every human child learns to swim, Seojin said quietly. We consider it a basic survival skill. The elder was quiet for a long moment. Then he asked the question that would change everything. What classification would you give your homeworld? Seojin met his eyes. Honestly, we've never thought of Earth as particularly dangerous, it's just home. But if I had to guess based on what I've learned about galactic classification standards, he paused. Earth would probably be Class 13 or higher. Impossible. No species could survive on a Class 13 world. Elder, Kyung said softly, how dangerous is your homeworld? Vorthak Prime is Class X, the highest classification ever recorded. The teenager nodded thoughtfully. It sounds scary, but I bet if humans lived there for a few thousand years, we'd figure out how to make friends with whatever was trying to kill us. Elder Jinwoo stared at the child, and for the first time in 4 centuries, he felt genuinely afraid. Not of physical danger, but of the implications of what he was learning. If humans came from a world more hostile than Vorthak Prime, and had learned to thrive rather than just survive, what did that make them? What did that make the Kethri? The Kethri war fleet emerged from hyperspace at the edge of Earth's solar system like a gathering storm. 50 warships, each capable of reducing a planet to ash, hung in the void like mechanical predators. Fleet Commander Jaewon stood on the bridge of the flagship, studying the sensor readings with growing confusion. This cannot be correct, he growled to his science officer. Run the scans again. The readings didn't change. The third planet from the star registered as a Class 13, Death World, more hostile than even Vorthak Prime. Gravity was manageable at 1G, but everything else was wrong. The atmosphere was a toxic mixture of oxygen and nitrogen that would be corrosive to most species. The surface showed signs of massive geological instability, active volcanoes, unstable weather patterns, and oceanic conditions that would kill most life forms. Sir, his communications officer reported, we're receiving a transmission from the planet. On screen, a human face appeared on the main display. The man was middle-aged with calm eyes and a slight smile. He wore simple clothing with no visible weapons or armor. Greetings. I'm Tae-hyung, Earth's diplomatic representative. Welcome to our solar system. We've been expecting you. Jaewon studied the human's relaxed posture. Every other species would be broadcasting surrender terms by now or fleeing in terror. This one acted as if he were welcoming guests to dinner. I am Fleet Commander Jaewon of the Kethri Empire. You will prepare for occupation and surrender all military assets immediately. I'm afraid we can't do that, Tae-hyung replied pleasantly. But we'd be happy to discuss trade agreements, cultural exchange programs, and mutual defense treaties. Would you like to send a delegation to Earth for negotiations? Negotiations? Jaewon couldn't hide his surprise. We are not here to negotiate. We are here to establish Kethri authority over your species. That's unfortunate. We were hoping to meet you as equals. Our xenobiologist Minji has been studying Kethri culture from the data our colonies provided. We think our peoples could learn a lot from each other. The transmission ended, leaving Jaewon staring at a blank screen. In 300 years of conquest, no species had ever suggested they were equals to the Kethri. The arrogance was almost insulting. Prepare the landing forces, he ordered. We'll show them what equals look like. The first Kethri shuttles landed in what humans called Central Park in their largest city. Jaewon had chosen the location to demonstrate Kethri power in front of the maximum number of humans. Instead, he found himself facing a small group of humans waiting calmly in an open field. Tae-hyung stepped forward, flanked by several other humans, including a woman with scientific equipment and a man who moved with military precision. Welcome to Earth, Tae-hyung said. I know this is technically an invasion, but we'd still like to show you proper hospitality. This is Dr. Minji, our xenobiologist, and General Sung-ho, our military advisor. General Sung-ho nodded politely. We've prepared a cultural exchange presentation if you're interested. We understand Kethri society values strength and survival skills. Jaewon towered over the humans, his bio-armor gleaming in Earth's yellow sunlight. We are here to demonstrate Kethri superiority, not engage in cultural activities. Of course, Minji said, consulting her tablet. We'd be fascinated to observe Kethri combat capabilities. Perhaps we could arrange some demonstration matches. Matches? Friendly competitions. We could show you some human activities. You could show us Kethri techniques. It would be educational for both species. Before Jaewon could respond, a commotion erupted nearby. A group of human children had approached the Kethri landing site, apparently drawn by curiosity. Their adult supervisors were trying to maintain a safe distance while the children pointed and asked questions. One child, a boy of perhaps 10 years, broke away from the group and walked directly toward a Kethri warrior. The massive reptilian soldier looked down at the tiny human approaching fearlessly. "Are you really from space?" the child asked. "You're really big. Are all your people that big?" The Kethri warrior looked to Jaewon for guidance. This was not covered in any invasion protocol. "It's okay," Taehyung called out. "Jinsu is just curious. We teach our children that meeting new species is exciting, not frightening." Jaewon watched in amazement as more human children approached his warriors. They showed no fear, only curiosity. One girl asked if she could touch a Kethri's armor. A boy wanted to know if they had any pets. "Your children are not properly trained for survival," Jaewon observed. "They show no fear of potential predators." "Actually, they're showing excellent survival instincts," General Sungho replied. "They're gathering information, assessing potential threats, and determining whether you're hostile or just different. We are invaders. They should fear us." "Why? You haven't threatened them." Humans learn early to distinguish between actual danger and unfamiliar but potentially friendly situations. Minji stepped forward with her tablet. "Commander Jaewon, our studies suggest that Kethri society developed in response to individual survival pressures. Is that correct?" "Obviously. Vorthak Prime forged us into the ultimate warriors through countless generations of struggle." "Fascinating. Earth took a different approach. We faced extinction-level threats that required species-wide cooperation to survive. Individual strength wasn't enough. We had to learn to work together or die as a species." She showed him images on her tablet. "These are some of Earth's predators. We didn't defeat them through superior strength. We learned to coexist with them." Jaewon stared at the pictures. Massive bears that could crush a human easily. Ocean predators with rows of razor teeth. Serpents whose venom could kill in minutes. Yet the images showed humans living and working alongside these creatures. "You keep death dealers as companions. We keep them as partners. This is a police dog, a wolf descendant trained to help humans maintain social order. This is a bomb detection dog that saves lives by finding explosive devices. These are therapy animals that help humans recover from psychological trauma." "Impossible." General Sungho smiled. "Would you like to meet some of them?" Before Jaewon could object, several humans approached with various animals. A woman led a massive dog that would have been classified as a dangerous predator on most worlds. A man carried a bird of prey on his arm. Another human had what appeared to be a domesticated serpent draped around his shoulders. "This is Rex," the woman said, patting the dog's head. "He's a retired military working dog. German Shepherd breed, bred from wolves for intelligence, loyalty, and protective instincts." The dog looked up at Jaewon with alert but friendly eyes. Its tail moved in what humans called wagging, apparently a sign of happiness. "And this is Apollo," the man with the bird said. "He's a red-tailed hawk. We use birds of prey for pest control in agricultural areas." The hawk fixed Jaewon with a predator's gaze that would have been at home on Vorthak Prime. "The snake is Athena," the third human explained. "She's a ball python, completely harmless to humans. Children often keep snakes as pets to learn responsibility and overcome fear." Jaewon found himself surrounded by creatures that should have been enemies, all living peacefully with humans. The humans showed no fear, no aggression, only calm confidence. How is this possible? "Evolution," Minji explained. "Humans learned that cooperation was more effective than domination. We turned potential enemies into allies, dangerous situations into opportunities. A sudden alert interrupted the demonstration. Jaehwan's communication officer reported massive solar activity, a coronal mass ejection heading directly for Earth. On most worlds, this would mean evacuation or massive casualties. Instead, the humans moved into coordinated action. Emergency. Broadcasts went out in dozens of languages. Power grids adjusted to handle the electromagnetic pulse. Most remarkably, human spacecraft launched to provide shelter for the Kethri ships, whose shields weren't designed for this type of solar radiation. "Your people are protecting us," Jaehwan observed with amazement. "Of course," Taehyung replied. "You're guests in our system. We protect our guests." As the solar storm passed, Jaehwan found himself profoundly shaken. The humans had demonstrated something no species in Kethri experience possessed: the ability to protect those who had come to conquer them. "Why?" he asked quietly. "Because that's who we are," General Sung-ho replied. "We've learned that the strongest societies are built on cooperation, not domination. We'd rather make friends than enemies." Jaehwan looked around at the human city, at the impossible cooperation between species that should have been predator and prey, at children who faced the unknown with curiosity instead of fear. For the first time in his military career, he began to understand that strength could take forms he had never imagined. "I need to report to Elder Jinwoo," he said finally. "Of course. We'll have guest quarters prepared for your delegation while you consider our offer of alliance." As Jaehwan returned to his ship, he carried with him images that would haunt Kethri's strategic thinking for generations. Humans who had turned a death world into a garden, predators into partners, and potential enemies into protectors. The Kethri had come to conquer. Instead, they were learning what it meant to truly thrive. The emergency session of the Galactic Council had been called for the first time in over a century. Representatives from 200 species filled the massive chamber, their voices creating a chaos of languages and concerns. At the center of it all sat Elder Jinwoo and Captain Do-hyun, facing something unprecedented in galactic history. Ambassador Sungmin stood at the speaker's podium, calm and composed, despite the weight of representing humanity to the galaxy. Beside him, Lieutenant Soman, now War Leader Soman after her promotion, provided tactical support. The sight of a Kethri officer working alongside a human diplomat had already caused considerable discussion. "The situation is simple," announced Councillor Vex of the Altarian Republic. "The machines have destroyed 17 worlds in 3 months. Standard Kethri forces cannot stop them. The machines were ancient automated weapons from a long-dead civilization, awakened by deep space mining operations. They adapted to any attack pattern, learned from each encounter, and showed no mercy to any life form they encountered. Our traditional tactics have proven insufficient," Elder Jinwoo admitted, the words clearly difficult for him to speak. "The machines learn our strategies too quickly. Then we evacuate the threatened sectors," suggested another counselor. "Retreat until they power down from lack of targets." "That could take thousands of years," War Leader Soman interjected. "By then, half the galaxy could be dead." Ambassador Sungmin stepped forward. "Earth requests permission to address this crisis." A wave of shocked murmurs filled the chamber. Humans had never been granted full membership in the Galactic Council, having been considered too primitive for serious consideration. "You offer military assistance?" Councillor Vex asked skeptically. "Your people have no advanced technology, no spacefaring military tradition." "We offer something different," Sungmin replied. "We offer adaptability." The main display showed tactical footage from the latest machine attack. The automated weapons had systematically countered every Kethri strategy, adapting their defenses faster than the attackers could modify their approach. "The machines are programmed to respond to logical, predictable military patterns," Captain Do-hyun explained. "Kethri tactics are based on proven strategies refined over centuries. But humans think differently." "Explain," demanded Elder Jinwoo. War-leader. Soman activated a holographic display showing combined human-Kethri training exercises. "Humans excel at improvisation, creating new solutions in real time. Watch this simulation." The hologram showed a joint squad facing a defensive position. The Key 3 warriors provided frontal assault capabilities, while humans moved through approaches no military manual would recommend, using debris as climbing surfaces, creating distractions with improvised noisemakers, even having their wounded continue fighting in ways that confused enemy targeting systems. "This is chaos," observed Counselor Vex. "How can such disorder be effective?" "Because it's unpredictable," Sungmin explained. "Humans evolved on a world where rigid behavior patterns meant death. We learned to adapt faster than our environment could kill us." The discussion was interrupted by urgent communications from the frontier. Another machine fleet had been detected, heading for the industrial world of Kepler 438c, the planet's 3 billion inhabitants had perhaps 6 days before the machines arrived. "We need volunteers for an experimental joint operation," Elder Jinwoo announced. "Any species willing to work with unproven human tactics may join the mission." The response surprised everyone. Over 40 species volunteered, many citing positive experiences with human traders, diplomats, or researchers. Humans had been quietly building relationships across the galaxy, while the major powers focused on political maneuvering. The combined fleet that assembled at Kepler 438c was unlike anything in galactic history. Massive Key 3 battleships provided heavy firepower. Human vessels, smaller but incredibly maneuverable, served as coordination centers. Species with specialized abilities, aquatic races for underwater operations, energy beings for electronic warfare, crystalline entities for shield generation, all working together under joint human Kethri command. When the machine fleet arrived, they faced something their programming had never encountered. Controlled chaos. The battle began conventionally, with Kethri forces engaging the machines in traditional formation combat. As expected, the machines quickly adapted to standard tactics, but then the humans implemented their strategy. "All units, Pattern Delta 7, War Leader Somin broadcast. What followed looked like complete disorder to outside observers. Ships broke formation to attack from impossible angles. Ground forces used the planet's industrial infrastructure as weapon platforms. Human engineers working with alien technicians began modifying weapons and defensive systems in real time. The key breakthrough came when Yuna, now serving as Chief Innovation Officer, suggested using the machine's adaptation programming against them. "They learn from our patterns," she explained to the Joint Command staff. "What if we deliberately teach them the wrong patterns?" The humans began feeding false tactical data to the machines through captured communication links. They created fake patterns that appeared to be genuine military doctrine but contained hidden flaws. When the machines adapted to counter these false strategies, they opened themselves to attacks. They weren't prepared for. Captain Doyun led a combined strike team that included humans, Kethri, and volunteers from a dozen other species. The mission was to destroy the machine's central coordination node, but getting there required traveling through a facility designed to kill any biological life form. "Human tactics," Dohyun announced as they approached the facility. "Everyone stays flexible, follows instinct over protocol." What followed was a masterpiece of improvised cooperation. When energy barriers blocked their path, crystalline allies reshaped themselves into focusing lenses for the team's weapons. When toxic gas filled the corridors, aquatic species provided breathing apparatus, while humans found ventilation systems no architect had intended for use. When gravity fields threatened to crush them, the team formed support structures using principles no military academy taught. The final assault on the coordination node required something that went against every Kethri instinct: trusting completely in teammates from other species. Do-hyun found himself relying on human creativity, alien problem-solving abilities, and cooperative tactics that would have been impossible in traditional Kethri military doctrine. The machines fell not to superior firepower, but to strategies they couldn't predict or counter. Their programming, designed to learn from logical military patterns, couldn't adapt to the controlled chaos of true interspecies cooperation. As the last machine shut down, the combined fleet celebrated in a dozen different ways. Key 3 victory roars mixing with human cheers. alien harmonics creating a symphony of triumph. In the aftermath, Elder Jinwoo made an announcement that changed galactic history. The Galactic Council recognizes humanity as a full member species, he declared. Furthermore, we established the First Interspecies Cooperative Command, with joint leadership between Kethri and human officers. Ambassador Sungmin's acceptance speech was simple. We don't seek to replace anyone's way of doing things. We just want to add our voice to the conversation. The galaxy is big enough for many different approaches to survival. Months later, war leader Soman established the first integrated training facility on a moon orbiting Earth. Young beings from across the galaxy came to learn what humans called adaptive tactics, the art of turning disadvantages into advantages, enemies into allies, and chaos into opportunity. Kyung-kama, now a teenager serving as a cultural liaison, often gave tours to new arrivals. Her favorite part was the moment when alien cadets first met Earth animals, watching a Kethri warrior nervously pet a dog or seeing crystalline beings discover the concept of animal friendship. The thing about humans, she would tell visitors, is that we never really saw ourselves as the strongest or smartest species. We just learned that working together makes everyone stronger. Captain Do-hyun, now serving as Joint Commander of the Cooperative Defense Force, kept a photo in his quarters showing the original human resistance fighters from Kepler 442b standing beside Kethri warriors. They had started as enemies and become something unprecedented, true partners in survival. The galaxy had learned that there were indeed two species of apex predators among the stars. But they had also learned something more important, that apex predators working together could accomplish things neither could achieve alone. In the vast darkness between the stars, new threats would always emerge. But for the first time in galactic history, the response wouldn't come from a single dominant species imposing its will on others. It would come from cooperation, adaptation, and the simple human belief that any problem could be solved if enough different minds worked on it together. The Kethri had thought they were the only Hellworlders in the galaxy. The humans had thought they were alone in the universe. Both had been wrong, and the galaxy was stronger for their mistake. In the end, the greatest discovery wasn't that Earth was a hellworld or that humans were survivors. It was that survival itself was better when shared.